Welcome back. I'm Ian Masters, and this is Background Briefing, available 24/7 at backgroundbriefing.org. And joining us now, Sidney Blumenthal, the former assistant and senior advisor to President Bill Clinton and a senior advisor to Hillary Clinton. He has been a national staff reporter for the Washington Post, Washington editor and staff writer for the New Yorker, and his books include the bestselling The Clinton Wars, The Rise of the Counter-Establishment, and The Permanent Campaign. And his latest book is All the Powers on Earth, The Political Life of Abraham Lincoln, 1856 to 1860. And he has an article at The Guardian, Trump is now effectively in control of the House of Representatives. Welcome to Background Briefing, Sidney Blumenthal.
Glad to be here, Ian.
So they've just squeaked out a narrow victory, and I don't know what the final figures are. I think probably they say about a seven-seat majority, but everybody's predicting that the new speaker, Kevin McCarthy, is going to have a miserable time. But what you're saying is that basically this is a victory for Trump. At the very moment, the punditry is suggesting that his announcement to run for the presidency has fallen flat. He's got a real ace up his sleeve, has he not, Sidney?
Yes, for all intents and purposes, Donald Trump is the de facto Speaker of the House. He controls Kevin McCarthy, if he becomes Speaker, through the preponderance of the right wing in the House Republican Conference, particularly through the Freedom Caucus, which is led by the far right-winger Jim Jordan of Ohio, who will be named the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, conducting inquisition after inquisition against the Democrats to pursue not only the Republican agenda, but Trump's personal agenda to defend himself against the many inquiries and investigations that are ongoing against him and his legal jeopardy. So, to begin with, the red wave, much trumpeted by virtually everyone in the mainstream media, failed to appear. And now the conventional wisdom that Trump is completely finished and is an exhausted volcano is proven at least wrong, to the degree that he has incredible ultimate influence over the House of Representatives right now.
Well, McCarthy's saying that Jim Jordan is a great friend. Probably my greatest advocate is Jim Jordan. He's also being supported by Marjorie Taylor Greene. Both of them are incredible Trumpsters, right?
Well, both of them were very intent on overthrowing McCarthy and had been his fervent opponents in the past. And the reason that McCarthy touts Jim Jordan now as his ally is because he was his enemy. And the fact is that Jim Jordan and the others don't trust McCarthy at all. And he exists at their sufferance, not the other way around. And for someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who says she backs McCarthy for the speaker, there's only one reason, and that's because he's given her a favor. She doesn't do things for nothing. One of the favors he's given her is that she's going to have the right to investigate the maltreatment, supposedly, of the January 6th insurrectionists in jail. Those are going to be very vivid and squalid hearings. She's also going to get a terrific committee assignment. In the last Congress, because of her threats to murder members of the House, she was stripped of her committee assignments, but now she's going to be rewarded.
But isn't she and Jordan and the Freedom Caucus essentially agents for Donald Trump? That's why you say that Trump is the de facto speaker.
Yes, Jim Jordan has made that clear. They all pledge fealty to Trump. Before the election, Jim Jordan issued 2 letters, one to the Attorney General Merrick Garland, the other to the FBI Director Christopher Wray, and a more than 1,000-page report laying out the questions that Jordan wanted to pose for future investigations when he claims the chairmanship of the House Judiciary Committee. Many of them involved defending Trump from the DOJ's investigations. In fact, Jordan asks for the sources of the DOJ's ongoing probes into Trump. In effect, what Jim Jordan is doing is attempting on Trump's behalf an obstruction of justice in the Mar-a-Lago case and many other cases, like the fake electors scheme that's being investigated. So Jim Jordan is very much Trump's agent. He is the head of the Freedom Caucus. He is the chair of the Judiciary Committee. And whenever you hear McCarthy say that Jim Jordan is his friend, that is a measure of McCarthy's fear.
So he's going to be Trump's lawyer as well as his chief investigator of investigating the investigators, right?
The House of Representatives will now be the law firm that Trump has wanted. Trump has a series of incompetent boob lawyers because he can't get first-class lawyers. None of them won't work for him. But now he has the House of Representatives at his beck and call, willing to conduct investigations into the investigations, willing to obstruct them, willing to shine a false light on them. Even I will hazard a guess at some point to call Attorney General Garland not only before them, but possibly to impeach him for deigning to investigate Donald Trump's many crimes. So Trump's law firm is now going to be the House of Representatives.
So, Sidney Blumenthal, in terms of foreign policy, we just had at the G20 in Bali, Indonesia, the entire G20 condemned Russia, and to the point where Russia's Foreign Minister Lavrov had to leave early. Also, the United Nations General Assembly is condemning Russia. Now Russia is literally conducting massive war crimes by raining missiles down on civilians in Ukraine and destroying civilian infrastructure ahead of the winter. Yet there is a pro-Putin caucus in the House represented by McCarthy and Jim Jordan and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Are they going to cut off funds? They're the only friends that Putin has in the entire planet, here in the United States House of Representatives, for God's sake.
Well, the pro-Putin caucus of the House Republican Conference is the strongest opponent of sustaining Ukraine in the entire Western world. And they are objectively, as it were, supporting Putin's efforts by undermining Ukraine. McCarthy is not really part of that. He's just a complete weak reed who bends in the wind. He said that there would be no blank check for Ukraine, then he took it back. That's classic McCarthy, speaking out of both sides of his mouth, out of weakness in each case. But I think that this caucus will attempt to undermine aid to Ukraine. I don't think they'll be successful. Certainly the Republicans in the Senate are staunch in their support for aid to Ukraine, unlike this caucus in the House. There's an additional point that needs to be raised, which is that Putin is counting on Trump, and any blow against Trump politically is also a blow against Putin. He's desperate to get Trump back in office. He's desperate to bolster him. He's desperate to continue to polarize and divide the United States. He's desperate to subvert our political system. He's desperate to support Trump in his ongoing coup, which is what all of this amounts to. And any defeat for Trump along the way is a setback for Putin. So the midterm results, rather than a red wave, and the Senate going for the Democrats and bolstering Biden was not only a setback momentarily for Trump, but also for Putin.
So, Sidney Blumenthal, what happened then to the failed frozen yogurt shop owner from Bakersfield, California, Kevin McCarthy, who sometime back when Speaker Paul Ryan and he were in a Republican conference, McCarthy said, "I swear to God, Dana Rohrabacher and Donald Trump are on Putin's payroll."
Yeah, McCarthy is not trusted by Trump fully because sometimes he acts as though he's under a sodium pentothal and speaks the truth. When he blurted out that Trump is being paid by Putin and then said, "I swear to God," which was widely reported, something he said in the House Republican conference meeting, Trump was, of course, furious. And similarly, McCarthy committed the gaffe of telling the truth about the Benghazi hearings when he said it was being staged entirely to drive down Hillary's poll numbers. And that just is grist for why the far right doesn't trust him, because he understands that the basis of what is being done is cynicism, hypocrisy, and falsehood for partisan political purposes. But he's willing to go along with it. Yet those on the right never trust him. So he's in a constantly weak position. And he has to keep dancing faster and faster just to stand still.
Well, as your article, Sidney Blumenthal, at The Guardian, Trump is now effectively in control of the U.S. House of Representatives, points out that during the coup attempt led by Trump, when the mob stormed the Capitol, they were yelling "Hang Mike Pence," as well as they wanted to kill and capture Nancy Pelosi. Kevin McCarthy was on the phone to Trump, and Trump famously said to him, "Well, Kevin, I guess these people are more upset about the election than you are." Then McCarthy replied, "Am I upset? They're trying to effing kill me." McCarthy screamed, "Who the F do you think you are talking to?" So there again is the other McCarthy, but he's gone, right? He's the guy that actually deals with reality and has a conscience and has principle. He's just gone.
Well, immediately after the January 6th coup attempt, McCarthy not only had that conversation with Trump, excoriating him, but also raised the idea that cabinet members should invoke the 25th Amendment to remove Trump. But then he defended Trump in the impeachment and totally caved. Trump called him a pussy. And then after Trump left office, but not before January had ended, a week after Biden was inaugurated, McCarthy flew to Mar-a-Lago to bend his knee before his emperor in a kind of apology for what he had said and done during the January 6th events. So he knows he literally doesn't have a leg to stand on within his caucus except for the far right. And he, no matter what he says, that admits what the truth is about what's going on, he will always reverse himself. And of course, he persuades everybody of his weakness and cowardice and is in a perpetually unstable position, thereby also providing power and influence to Trump and his zealous allies in the House.
So just in closing then, Sidney Blumenthal, the Republicans wouldn't even be in this situation where they've eked out a very narrow majority, but for the 4 seats that were lost in New York, which is almost incomprehensible. And even out here in California, for example, Christy Smith could have beaten Representative Mike Garcia here in Los Angeles because all the money went to Karen Bass to stop the avalanche of $100 million from the real estate developer who's a Republican pro-life character who said he was a Democrat pro-choice, who ran as a pro-choice Democrat. So this is what I don't understand. What happened to the Democrats in their most blue of blue states? Somehow they screwed up and let the Republicans steal some seats.
Well, the Democrats in New York State screwed up in their redistricting. They overreached egregiously. They were slapped down by the state court, which then turned over the redistricting to an academic who cluelessly created a series of districts in New York that were weighted towards the Republicans, and then there was nothing the Democrats could do about it. In Ohio, the Ohio Republicans redistricted and gerrymandered the seats to favor the Republicans outrageously. An Ohio Supreme Court struck it down and then would not enforce their own decision. And so the elections went forward on the gerrymandered districts in Ohio, but not in New York. Same thing happened in Florida without the court decisions, where DeSantis redistricted, forced a redistricting and gerrymandered. So this House, with a very narrow margin for the Republicans, under 10, that's ungovernable and will lead to certain chaos and the control of the right wing, and ultimately behind that, the influence of one Donald J. Trump through his agents in the Freedom Caucus, has really been determined by the redistricting and gerrymandering. None dare call it democracy.
Well, Sidney Blumenthal, I thank you very much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Ian.
And again, I've been speaking with Sidney Blumenthal, a former assistant and senior advisor to President Bill Clinton and a senior advisor to Hillary Clinton. He has been a national staff reporter for The Washington Post, Washington editor and staff writer for The New Yorker, and his books include the best-selling The Clinton Wars, The Rise of the Counter-Establishment, and The Permanent Campaign. And his latest book is All the Powers on Earth, The Political Life of Abraham Lincoln, 1856 to 1860. And he has an article at The Guardian, Trump is now effectively in control of the U.S. House of Representatives. We're going to take a brief station break, back looking into the Dutch court's conviction of 2 Russians and a Ukrainian for the shoot-down of the passenger airliner over Ukraine, which killed all